Okay, it's about 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get
This
started.
conference
please.
will now be recorded.
Okay, we're being recorded, so if you would please, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay, we do have a quorum present. All members are present except Nathan, who is ill. Reminder to make sure that you have your microphone on when you're talking. We do need to adopt the agenda. There's only a few items. Does anybody see any need for any alterations or corrections?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just
sir.
if I may, no additions. I just wanted to let you know, we'll cover it more when you get to your first case on the agenda, but there was some supplemental information I just had Ms. Turner hand out. I will explain when you call on the case.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. We also need to look at the minutes, see if we need to make any corrections or changes before we adopt those. Okay, any changes or modifications needed?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt the minutes as they are. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the minutes. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we have two hearings. The first one is case number SUP-07-18-24. And just a reminder here, I'll read the application information. We'll hear from staff. The applicant will be able to address the Planning Commission. And after that, if there's any public comment, there'll be time for that. Okay, for this case, it's Trail Bites by Kate Crumbs, an SUP application. Mary Woodward, the leasee, has filed a special use permit, SUP, application to operate a general store located at 37 Poorhouse Road, Criglersville, Virginia, and further identified by tax map number 21-47C. The property is zoned as agricultural, A1, and contains 0.0293 acres. The property is improved with an existing 312 square foot brick building. The applicant is proposing to operate a general store in the existing building. Okay, anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, may I? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to cover a little bit what I have on the screen of the intro letter, which is essentially an update. I will review the special use permit conditions, which is also in your packet. And I will have an update on where we're at with two pending agencies, one being VDOT and one being VADAX. As the chairman listed, this is a special use permit. Currently, the application is filed with the leasee, Ms. Woodward, and it is non-transferable. It runs with the applicant. You all may have some discussion on that later on, but that's how it's currently drafted. If you'll look either in your packet or on the screen, the agency comments, I'm going to cover the ones we have approval on, then I'll go back to the ones that are pending. Last time we were here, there was a question about the gray water, if it's allowed to be disposed of here in town at Ms. Woodward's primary location, known as Cake Crumbs and Main Street. I did speak to RSA. They have no issue with the gray water being disposed at Cake Crumb location, since that water source originates from that location. So I did get confirmation from our RSA. The building official, really, they had provided an ADA memo, which has been there through the last workshop. We kept that in the packet that speaks as far as ADA. Health Department, we did receive the approval letter from them. Two things they stated in that approval letter. One is that the employees, so they were fine with the prepackaged food. I'm trying to find that exact language that they used. They understand a mobile hand wash station will be used there. They also understand that, in addition, employees will have permission to use the bathroom facilities next door at the Possum store. Nothing in this application states it's up to the owner or the applicant if they want to provide public restrooms. VDH is not requiring public restrooms because this is not a sit-down establishment. But VDH is the one that makes, they have the jurisdiction and suggests the regulations that be followed, whether you have to have a bathroom on site or applicable. So the only thing referenced for this special use permit is that employees would be allowed, and the owner is here tonight of all the parcels that surround this building we're talking about tonight, as far as if they want to speak to, yes, they are aware and approve of use for employee bathroom use. So that is VDH's comment. VDAX, there's two supplements that were handed here tonight. My apologies, but we get you things as we have them. Board of Supervisors, you have that as well, so I'll re-explain that when we get to your portion of the meeting. And for the public, I'm going to bring this up so you can see it as I walk through it. And certainly, Gracie, we can give copies as well after the fact. Okay, so Ms. Woodward has been working with VDAX exclusively since this is dealing with food and other things. They are another government agency that has criteria, and they are an agency where she would have to obtain an operations permit. What you'll see in this handout you have on the screen, however you choose to view it, is that this inspector or this person she's been working with directly, they are forwarding with approving their application, but there appears to be this waiting period of 5 business days before she will actually receive in hand her operation permit. I want to point to two things. One, in the VDH, it does ask that a copy, in VDH's letter, it does ask for a copy of the VDAX permit be provided to the Health Department as well as us. So certainly, we anticipate her to receive that soon. The applicant is aware of that requirement, and the applicant's required to provide that to the Health Department and to us. So not in hand yet. That is something that you all consider, as well as the board, as a conditional approval if you should choose. And then lastly, I'm going to bring up some pictures. I'm sorry, I'm not a photographer, and I'm not trademarking these because I'm not proud of them. VDOT is pending as well. I talked to VDOT as late as 3 o'clock this afternoon. Initially, when the pictures that are in your packet that was available online, that's what VDOT was considering initially. They did send us a letter in early August stating that it needed to conform to a low commercial volume. However, if you had questions, please contact Mr. Wynn. When I received that letter, I initially contacted Mr. Wynn and said, what are we doing here? This is like small, low volume, 312 square foot shop. He said, well, I think we should meet on site. I reported at our last workshop that unfortunately VDOT could not schedule before that workshop. They were scheduled the following day to meet with the applicant. I believe they met somewhere on the 22nd. They were supposed to call me last Thursday. I got a phone call last Thursday that the head guy was tied up. They would call me Friday. I did not hear from them Friday. We were off the holiday Monday. I contacted Tuesday to get an understanding of where we're at, or you're approving this, or give some other considerations. VDOT's considerations, whether you're looking at the pictures in the packet or what I have that I've taken today, can illustrate, is the proximity. Can you see my, I guess I'm going to say cursor, but that looks like the letter I in that second photo. Does everybody see that okay? Can you bring me the pointer, please, Kim? I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but if you don't mind, please, bringing me the pointer, I will point that out. VDOT's concern was the proximity of the parking near their right-of-way. And from the edge of the pavement that you see in that second photo to the right there, to that black fence that's kind of beside the county car there I took up, that represents about 21 feet, put a tape measure on it today, from edge of pavement. So which one is it? I don't want to blind anybody or myself.
Pretty strong.
Let's do this. Okay, I started up top so I don't blind anybody. So from that fence that exists, boy, that is bright, to the edge of pavement, that's 21 feet. When I talked to VDOT today, one, seeing if I could get some kind of written commitment today, they said they would have to come back out to another site visit. It should be fine, but they just want us to, or the applicant, to put some lines here that says, hey, my entrance will be here, how wide, and where's the parking. So it's up to the applicant, but as explained to VDOT today, and I'm shaking, I've had a lot of coffee today. If you take a straight line from this fence and go back, that would be the right of the driveway, and I would recommend, it's up to the applicant, but at least 8 foot wide. So this would denote the right side of the driveway in there. Come in, this fence, Ms. Balford has agreed, but you can ask her, she'll answer that for herself, to take down this fence. From this fence inside to where the land gets, it lays pretty flat right here, but there's a little bit of rise in topography, mainly back here near this bush, but definitely as you kind of go this way. So if you use kind of that flat spot as your measurement, it measures from 21 feet from inside this fence to there, and 18 foot deep. The county's zoning ordinance requires one parking space per 200 square feet. This is roughly a 312 square foot building. So essentially we would ask for 2. We don't expect more of that. One of the 2 would need to be handicap parking. So VDOT, this is conceptual because this is between the applicant and them. They told me today that it looks okay with being proposed, but they would like to have some sketch. It doesn't have to be an engineer drawing, some sketch that shows how this is going to enter and where the parking is. That way you can clearly illustrate that parking, when it comes in, they can get turned around in the interior of the property, outside of VDOT right away, and then they can head out safely, not backing out, but head out safely, pulling out on the Poorhouse Road. So that is a pending item. If you want to choose to conditional on that or not, that is your choice, but those are the pending takeaways. Going to the conditions, I'm going to bring those up online so you can see what is in this special use permit. 1 second. All right. Mr. Chairman, are you fine with me reading them verbatim, or how would you like me to go about that? There are 10 of those listed. I can read them if that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
All right, the special use permit is not transferable, shall run with the applicant. The special use permit is an indefinite permit pursuant to Article 14-3-3 of the Madison County zoning ordinance. The special use permit shall be recorded in land records of Madison County's clerk office within 30 days after the date of approval. So this is important. Should you get approved, that's their decision, you must within 30 days take that and get it filed at the courthouse. That is a requirement. Number 3, the proposed use/building shall be or remain in compliance with all county ordinances, the Uniform Statewide Building Code, and all applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations. So what we are saying is we're telling you what our ordinances are to comply. Anything federal or state, you're going to have to require that. That's up between the applicant and them. I think that's going to play out in some ADA discussion, I would suspect, but I just want to make that clear. Item number 4, any existing fencing So this may be one that we want to talk about, but any existing fencing that's on the property shall be maintained to provide buffering for the proposed use for adjoining properties. I want to be clear, the fencing that was put in here is not the fencing I showed on the screen. That fencing is on a different parcel. Ms. Balfour owns 3 parcels there. If you're familiar with the area, starting at the corner of the Turnpike and Poorhouse, she owns that. She owns that vacant parcel, which was denoted with that fenced grassed area. There's a driveway that goes to a vacant, abandoned house. And then she owns that 37 Poorhouse Road, which is the application for Trail Bites here tonight. So that buffering, that fence just represents, I believe there's a fence on the exterior, the rear of the building. That is the fence that's referenced in this special use permit. Number 5, any lighting that is provided on the property shall be directed downward so as not to produce a glare onto adjoining properties and or any roads of right-of-way. Number 6, parking is prohibited in the VDOT right-of-way, known as Poorhouse Road. Parking is also prohibited in the gravel driveway that serves tax map 2447B, which, for the record, if you're in your packet, and I've got, yeah, I believe that's the abandoned house that they're referencing. So we're trying to indicate that there will be no parking that would block ingress and egress, even though it's abandoned house. Number 7, all parking spaces shall be clearly identified on site, so that's a requirement. Naturally, that's not done now because you don't have approval, but that would need to be done. Number 8, any change of use or expansion of services not included in this special use permit will require an additional new or modified special use permit as required by Madison County zoning ordinance. So anything outside of this would require the applicant to come back to apply, to be heard, to amend, modify, or so forth. Number 9, the zoning administrator or their designee may visit the site during hours of operation to ensure compliance with a special use permit. So anything that's in the special use permit is what we would be primarily looking for should we arrive on site. Number 10, and I appreciate our prior zone administrators, they've kind of started making this boilerplate just so folks understand the provisions of revoking a special use permit. Number 10, this special use permit may be revoked upon material noncompliance with the terms of the permit or upon violation of any other terms of the zoning ordinance, uniform statewide building code, health department laws and regulations, or any other ordinances of Madison County. However, prior to commencement of any action to revoke this permit, the county shall notify the permit holder in writing of the material in noncompliance or violation, and the permit holder shall have 30 days thereafter to cure the material noncompliance or violation. Violation procedures shall be in accordance with Article 9, parentheses, administration and interpretation, and Article 17, parentheses, provisions for appeal of the Madison County zoning ordinance. So if you looked in our zoning ordinances, which are found online, or we can make copies available, Article 19 and 17, those provisions are listed that are in there. And then if these were agreement and this was approved, we would expect signatures on this condition. But I want to make it clear, and I believe it's fair and understanding, you can ask the applicant, I believe these are all conditions that were worked on with the zoning office and the applicant, so there is nothing new that has not been agreed upon. Okay. All right, so that is the conditions in the special use permit, and then we provide all the original stuff, how it was applied, and all the mailing, where all the letters went, is included in your packet as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I know that was a mouthful, but I stand ready for any questions. Again, you have the applicant here tonight, as well as Ms. Balford, who is the property owner, for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Jonathan? Yes.
Jonathan, I was trying to follow that right-of-way that VDOT was talking about. Were you trying to say that that VDOT wanted that black fence removed because the black fence was in their right-of-way?
No, sir. VDOT they don't want the parking, specifically the maneuvering, the backing out in the road, but they do not want an impediment in their right-of-way. So they're fine with an access, like a driveway, if you will, whether it's for commercial or residents. They're fine with a driveway coming in, but they want to move that parking out of the VDOT right-of-way. So
So
they
how
did,
far is the right of way? Because it looks like to me that if that fence was in the right of way, the building's in the right of way as well.
yeah, the fence is not in the right of way, but, let me see if it shows it on the
So-
plat. I believe that's a
So if
30-foot
it's not in their right
easement.
of way, how do they, I don't understand how they can.
VDOT, so let me clarify. Good question, let me clarify. VDOT did not ask them to move the fence. VDOT
Okay.
asked for the parking to be moved in out of the right-of-way. If they can move the fence or find some other arrangement, but they did not want them parking in the right-of-way. So I met on site today with Ms. Balfour to kind of walk through this. Okay, this is your property. How can this work so you're out of the VDOT right-of-way? And that was something that was discussed today, and Ms. Balfour was okay with to get that distance to move the parking further in.
So she doesn't have the distance from the fence into the backyard for 2 spaces, which would be 40 feet. Because I think we allow 20 feet per space, is that right?
She has adequate room inside of the fence. Probably it's fair to say if this fence didn't exist, parking could probably start, hold on. Parking probably could start somewhere in the front, but certainly the VDOT right-of-way, you know, you're gonna be in the right-of-way somewhere right about in this area. So it's a very short distance. Even with that car today when I pulled in, it's hard to park and stay out of that. Also primarily, not only staying parked out of the right-of-way, but not backing into, because there's nowhere to maneuver a vehicle around outside of their right-of-way.
What, I know this, you may not know this, but what is the right-of-way distance? I think on a back road like that, don't they measure from the center line?
They measure right-of-ways from center line, but roads vary. We talk about this all the time, and it depends on when roads were adopted in the system. Most of these secondary roads are 30 feet. Occasionally, you'll run into some are 50, but I dare say they were probably well after the Byrd Act and all was enacted.
A road
But they
like this-
do measure from a center line.
Yeah, but the 30 feet is the total width, isn't it?
From center line, yes, center line in.
So they're claiming a 60-foot total right-of-way then? Or
Not
is it-
necessarily,
I
'cause
don't,
that
you
might
know.
not be that right of a road there.
Right.
Right.
yeah, that- It's just odd to me that they keep talking about their right-of-way, but they haven't specified what it is or where it ends. You know, if they haven't been there and. or-
They have been on site.
But they haven't.
And that
given
was
you
a,
any letter or
the,
any
the
information.
comments they made to me. So what we try to do to work around their concern, the right, they want a low commercial entrance, which they're fine with gravel. Whether they require a tapered or not, I couldn't imagine with so much.
Yeah.
They're gonna require that to, you know, be put in, and parking cannot be in the right of way. So they did do a site visit. I followed up with them this evening, share with these pictures, what do you think about this arrangement? They said, you know, that is a much better configuration. Just show us, they like to come out one more time and show us, physically draw it out, where's your entrance gonna come in, the width of that entrance, and what would be your parking area. So this picture, I think, would be a good illustration, that the applicant's gonna submit that sketch to them, but this would be a good illustration to bring, because this is a driveway that goes to that abandoned house.
Yeah,
So bring that access in there, parking would be this area, and they definitely have at least room for the 2 that are required by the county.
Yeah, I
They
can
want to
see
put
that.
3, that's fine. The employees are not parking there. The employees, correct me if I'm wrong, are parking over at Ms. Balfour's location to the side of the Possum store.
I don't know if this was Mike's point or not, but it is my point. This is an awfully open-ended, very vague requirement that they're trying to put in here, since they don't tell us where the right-of-way line is.
Yeah, so VDOT, again, we work with them because it is their jurisdiction. I even try to use an example, it was given me, so I don't want to take credit. But, you know, you have existing easements that are very tight for business. Think of Washington Street, connects 29 to Main Street, right? Think of Pig and Steak. I love the place, I'm not talking bad about it, but what do? If you park out front, what do? Back out into the right-of-way. So try to use a little common sense approach. I didn't win anybody over. But, and I'm just saying, I used that and there was no biting on that hook. So this seems to be amenable to them. Again, this was a condition I gave them today. They said, we'd like to come out and look at it again. Give us some measurements on the sketch, and we'll send you a letter.
So Jonathan, is that parking lot on the property of the special use permit?
So the special use, let me go back to the application so I can answer your question. Hold on one second, please. Let's go to the original here. All right, so this is 2147C. So, Mr. Elliott and members of the commission, to Mr. Elliott's question, the special use permit application is listed, references only the tax map number for 37 Poorhouse Road, which is that 312 square foot building. Initially, when this was applied for, we had kind of this co-application going on. Comments through the workshop led to, we need to do this as a sole application with the leasee, which is we've done. What I did ask was Ms. Balfour to be here tonight, so if there was any questions about, is it okay to use this other tax map owner, parcel? She owns all three. She can speak directly to the planning commission and the board tonight for that. But the answer to your question, I know a long answer, the only tax map parcel that is listed on that SUP application is 21-47C. The other submittals, if you will, the original parking configuration, as well as what I have here, that was a part of showing the parking arrangement that was part of the application. So it's supplemental information. It doesn't list that tax map parcel, but it's showing where the parking would be for that business that would be located at 21-47C.
I understand that clearly, but the question I'm asking, is that piece of property the same as that tax map of that building?
Right.
And the way I see it, it's not.
And I'll throw a friendly suggestion out. Certainly legal can speak to this. I think I may have shared this with some of you all. Again, this is legal. I'm not legal. We have in the past, at the board level, approved, there was a daycare center. I may have said this at the last workshop, so sorry for regurgitating. They wanted to do a daycare at their location in their basement. They didn't have the adequate parking. The adjoining neighbor, which I think was a church, were at that same meeting that night and said, hey, if it's parking, we'll let them park there. We accepted that at that meeting that night, and that was written in ultimately as the motion to approve that case, but it was accepted. So in the original application, the church wasn't a co-applicant or a parcel listed in that, but it certainly was referenced in the board vote to approve and use that as a condition.
So that piece of property is gonna be used as a condition, and Possum Stores parking is gonna be used as a condition too.
Hannon, how would you like to weigh in?
If I can ask, Ms. Balfour, so the parking would be on 21-47E, is that right?
D, let me go to a picture of the, so here are what's a better picture? I guess this one is. So the parking will be here, Hannon. This is the little small shop. This is the driveway to the abandoned house, and this is where the black fence is located here on this parcel. So the parking will be here, the proposed parking, excuse me, and the Possum Store is here for reference.
I also wanted to mention that if we are using the larger parcel for parking, there's room there for 4 parking spaces. So if we're opening it up for 2, we might as well go ahead and make the whole thing available for parking, which would mean that they would not have to use the store parking lot. So that wouldn't necessarily have to be the special use on.
Yeah,
Especially, should I repeat all that?
No, ma'am. I think we understood that you're stating you have more room to build out beyond 2, maybe 4, whatever. I think to the commission's point, they're looking at where is that parking going to be located? So we just established 21-47D, which is, it's still your parcel, we understand that, versus what is written in the special use permit. The permit has that one tax map, which is the other parcel you own, which is 37 Poorhouse School Road. So that's the question that's being asked, and kind of legal is discussing as well is While that tax map number may not be listed in the permit application, how do we address that if, for their consideration tonight of making that a part as the SUP? Did I capture that question correctly? Yes, you did. Okay.
So if we go to the conditions on the special use permit, if we can
Oh,
pull
yes, sir.
that up. And look at, I guess, condition 7.
Sorry, I guess I could have paged down. Okay,
So
number 7.
all parking spaces shall be clearly identified on site, which may include 21-47 E and D with permission of the owner.
Yeah.
My question on that, sir, is if you're gonna use 2 other parcels on the sides of this and use the restroom in the store, why, to make this work, you need all of that. So why isn't some more of that under the special use permit?
Well, I think that's why I'm suggesting it be included in this condition by listing those out. Does that answer your question? Sorry. Okay.
Just clarification. Is it a legal requirement that the parking spaces specified be on that particular property? It just says they have to provide parking spaces.
Correct.
So,
But you're applying for a special use permit, Steve, on that property.
yeah, and we're requiring a certain number of parking spaces, but do they legally have to be on that parcel? Could they be on, I'm thinking of, say, a
No.
shopping center where you've got a large parking lot and the spaces are all over the place, but they're provided for the stores.
I mean, I think I think a business owner could lease with a place a mile away for parking spaces and provide transportation from that place to their business. I mean, that's an extreme example. Nobody would
Yeah.
probably do it as a practical matter, but I don't see why that would be prohibited in terms of what's required or not required.
Okay, so for the condition on the special use permit requiring the parking space, well, actually, that's not a condition on the special use permit. That's in the ordinance. The building requires that many spaces if they're gonna use it. But it doesn't say that they have to be on that lot. They can be somewhere else that's provided.
I guess what I was only saying is that it says on-site,
Yeah, that's,
and I'm trying to figure out, does on-site mean, to Mr. Elliott's point, this particular piece of property, or can it mean someplace in the vicinity? Is that what on-site means?
or should we even say on-site? If we want them to provide 2 parking spaces,
Right.
period,
You could just eliminate that word.
yeah.
Jonathan, could you scroll to the photos you took today with the vehicles there? I have a twofold question. I wasn't expecting VDOT to honestly be this intense on this suggestion, but since they're going down the rabbit hole, I will too. One, hypothetical, let's say we move the fence. Will VDOT require, and I'm thinking of the applicant here in a financial situation, any type of improvement in the easement? Because it's grass now, I'm thinking mud, I'm thinking of coming in and out of that. Will VDOT require that, and then will that burden lie on the applicant? And then 2, your picture shows a whole lot more clearly than the GIS does, so I didn't realize that easement was so defined, getting back to the blue house. Are there any traps with that easement being right there as well? Let's say that property changes hands to another party, and we have parking on one side of that easement, and the store on the other. Will crossing that, probably legal, get into any other burden that we need to address in a
It could, but I would say that that's, I'm going to say, problem, challenge, issue for those property owners and business owners, and not really something that the county is involved in.
For your first question, in talking to Mr. Martinez today, that's who everyone pretty much answers to in that land use division. They were fine with gravel. I didn't hear anything about a culvert. Clearly, there doesn't appear to be a culvert, maybe 5 or 6 parcels up, but I hadn't seen anything. There's no ditching or anything, so maybe the road carries it to the other side. But the owner would be responsible for the material. So gravel they are fine with, so that would be an owner and applicant, whatever they work out, requirement. VDOT's only gonna care about that material that's required in their easement. Naturally, it would make sense to have gravel beyond in their parking. But in my opinion, VDOT would not have jurisdiction outside of the right of way. So if they chose to keep gravel going, or grass, or sand, that would be up to the applicant unless you all wanted to specify clearly in there. I can't imagine them wanting to do, any, but that's their property. But definitely in the VDOT right of way, gravel is what they're looking for at a minimum. I don't know what the taper requirement may be. It may not be a lot, it may not be none. But what VDOT said today is, we understand this configuration suggested. Let's come out on the site, someone submit a sketch, preferably the applicant, that shows the entrance, the width of the entrance, and where your parking area is.
Well, I was gonna say, I guess I'll address the applicants. I mean, the one thing I'm thinking of a road maintenance agreement or something there. If the gravel and our cars, doing wide turns to get out, however y'all configure the parking lot, probably something to think of.
May I? And then I know you asked that, I'm not trying to be rude, Mr. Whitman. One of the reasons to go and keep on Ms. Balford's property, the parcel we discussed, 2147D, which is shown in that picture, is to veer away from that driveway. It is clear that that is a driveway for, even though it's an abandoned house, that is a driveway to that property. And I don't have the specific zoning ordinance pulled up from me. I do know you have to be off a property line a certain distance for a driveway.
I guess that's where I was
I know it's beyond, it's like 3 or 5 feet or something like that. So that's why the suggestion was start at that fence post, and that would be your that's them to submit that if they want to, but that would be your right side of the driveway, and whatever your width is to the left. But that would clearly get you out of that driveway.
I got another question.
Yes.
It's weekly, it's obvious that they gonna have to let their employees go next door and use the bathroom because they can't stay up there all day without using the bathroom. And my question is, if we approve this to use the bathroom on another parcel, we just approved Rambos' garage out here, and that building's been there forever, and we told him he had to put a bathroom in. Why couldn't he say, I want everybody to go up my house and use the bathroom and run up the hill?
Yes, sir. Very, very good question. Unless a commission or board of supervisors, 'cause special use permit, you can put conditions on them. So unless this commission or board explicitly wanted that, VDH is the one that has jurisdiction in that area. So I don't know if VDH, that's their specific requirement, just like they looked at this as a general store. Even when we were initially discussing at the development committee phase, should it be a restaurant/caterer, that group, the committee decided it doesn't really meet that. The minute she were ever to put seating in there, I believe VDH would look at this differently. So VDH is the controlling factor of the authority on when or where bathrooms are located.
But my concern is if the lid comes off of this can and somebody comes in and says, hey, you did this for one, what about me? I want to go right up the hill. My house is right here and run my business.
Yeah, we would point them to VDH and get their guidance. And again, I don't remember that being an extra condition by this commission or the board. I believe that was a VDH thing, but VDH that's where it all would start, is with their requirements.
So if VDH doesn't require it, what you're telling me is the building inspector or building code can't require it.
I would not even try to give you an answer on building code today. I'd be happy to, I can try to reach out to Jamie via text now, see if he answers, but I do not know if the building code would require it or not.
It occurred to me, since you mentioned Pig and Steak, they actually do have a very similar situation because he has overflow parking across the street. It may be his land, but it's not part of the same part that the building's on.
And again, that's not picking, so please don't write that story. I love Barrett, and I'm the odd guy. I get the chicken Cobb salad and it's barbecue, but that's just
It's an
me.
existing business.
But it's an existing, and that's the point I was trying to make. You know, they've been there 40 years, I think, now. This building probably predates that building. So I was just trying to, the good thing about building code, they look at these things. There's code that applies for certain conditions of age or status of buildings. I was trying to make that case, and I don't want to give the impression they're unreasonable, but I did try, because you can drive around the county and see those conditions.
But the difference here is existing and new.
Yeah, it's- Repurposing. Any other question for Jonathan? All right, any question for the applicant? Okay, any comments from the public? Nobody on the, all right, any further discussion on this at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not telling them they have to speak, but did the applicant or the owner have any comments, is what I would ask.
Well, if you would like to say something, we don't have any questions apparently. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, did we,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir.
I think with VDOT not giving us an answer yet, and we're not sure what VDOT's gonna do, I think we need to table this application until we have the answers.
Ordinarily, I would agree, but VDOT's been involved with this for more than 2 months. And we have, there are other parts of the ordinance that specify that if VDOT has not responded within 60 days, I think that it's assumed to be a positive response. I may be misstating that, I think I'm right.
I don't think you're misstating it. To your point, and it's at the purview of this commission for their recommendation, and ultimately the supervisors,
Right.
maybe try to reach some term, if you're gonna do it as a conditional approval, I know we've done that some with PDH, or you all, excuse me, I'm not a voting member. I've done things conditionally, you know, condition of approval, certainly, if they do not get VDAC's operation permit, if they do not get VDOT's permit, that's out of our hands, but it's required for them to do it, they cannot operate.
Right. And I noticed VDAC, they're even correcting her spelling on a label, so.
Not what, but I did read that as
So
well, but.
they're being really picky. I think, do we have a public comment? Okay, let's go ahead back to that then. If there's a, yeah, there we go. If you would identify yourself.
Sure. This is Jennifer Campbell, town resident. I want to support Mary in this endeavor. She's done an excellent job in the town, and as a town planning commissioner, we often run into parking issues. So I want to say that she has done an excellent job in keeping a flow of customers and not butchering up or blocking public right away here in the town, and we're very grateful for her kindness in that and keeping people not just on Main Street, but customers do park across the street in a shared public parking lot, and they still don't linger for hours jamming up additional customers from being able to park for the drugstore or whatnot. It is a practice in the town that if the facility does not have enough parking, that they can allocate off-site parking as long as that partnered property owner is in agreement and we have a written statement as a condition. So I think the 2 to 4 parking spots that Ms. Balfour is offering is more than generous and is something that is a common practice that Mary's already familiar with in the town for her business. So being business friendly, I support what I've seen from Jonathan tonight.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So if we would grant a conditional approval, then the 30 days would not start tolling until the last approval, is that correct?
So I think what this board could do, this planning commission could do, board of supervisors could do is the planning commission could vote, if it was inclined that way, I'm not suggesting or prejudging, but could conditionally recommend approval pending VDOT's approval. And then that special use permit would become effective once VDOT actually let Mr. Weekly know.
So until we have in hand an approval letter from VDOT and the copy of the operation permit from VDAX, there is a section on the form that requires my signature, and it generally also comes with a letter notifying the applicant of the board's decision, but they would not get that signed permit and that approval until we receive those two remaining items, should you all choose to do a conditional here tonight.
Just out of curiosity, do they actually have the actual paperwork from VDAX? I see this letter says that they're going to be getting it, but do they actually have it now?
So
Or
it's
we
my
waiting for that?
understanding, Mary, and she certainly can speak this better than me, it's my understanding Mary has, or Ms. Wilbur, excuse me, has submitted everything to them, and they have the application they're forwarding, so they will be processing that certificate or permit, whichever it's known as, within 5 days. However, I do not want to misstate that.
So last Friday, that email was sent to me last Friday.
Yeah.
And she said 5 business days, I'm actually including Monday the holiday in that, so I would assume it would be this Friday that I would get notification. They do have to come out and inspect cake runs, because that's where all the prepping is going to be taking place. So I imagine when that gets done, and that's when I'll get my permit.
Okay, so actually, would be pending on two things then.
Yes, the VDAX operation, which is required by VDH to have a copy of, as well as zoning,
Yep.
and then the VDOT. VDOT did tell me today, and I don't know which one of you two filed it, that they have the land use permit application, and I believe you even paid for it, but that's still gonna require this sketch for design, so at least you're halfway there, based on a vote, I'm not misleading, but they do have that, so that should help in this process, should it get conditionally approved. Get the on-site meeting, get the sketch, so they can proceed with their work.
Last week we I applied for the permit, and paid the permit fee. So
So-
it's just getting the space.
Just because we're both online and we're recorded?
Speaking to this?
Yes,
Was it last Friday, Mary? The 22nd, I filled out the application for the parking permit and paid the fee that VDOT required. So that process has already started. I guess it's just a matter.
It's a matter of
laying out-
submitting that sketch. Anytime you do work in their right-of-way, whether it's cabling or a driveway or a culvert, you must submit that land use permit application. So it sounds like you have filed. What they told me today is that, depending on this outcome, you need to submit a sketch. They want to schedule an on-site visit, and then they'll proceed.
Would it be advisable that in the special use conditions, that one of the items that's not in the special use conditions be put in there, that she's given up parking space to this lady, so it's documented in the special use permit?
Can I point you, so I want to follow that, so thank you, sir. Can we look at either 6 or 7 condition? And maybe this is the appropriate space, because what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Elliott, is we need to identify on here where parking's going to be, such as the tax map 21.
Well, I'm saying because it's not on the tax map, that she's applying for the special use permit, and you're going to another tax map. It should be something in the conditions that said you're allowed to park on that tax map.
So would it be more appropriate in number 6 or number 7? Hopefully that's light enough where everyone can see. We can reference it 1 or 2 places. Certainly item 7, and again, this is a discussion, but all parking spaces shall be clearly identified on site. All parking shall occur on tax map 21-47D. Would that be sufficient to modify number 7, or is there somewhere else you all would like to clarify it?
I just think we need to have something in there that says they're gonna park on another parcel.
Hannon, what do you think about that number 7 modification?
I think number 7 would be fine, and you could even say with permission of the owner.
I'm happy to submit a letter with this.
We'll,
giving permission.
we'll put it in a condition. I would state, in just a parliamentary procedure thing, if you make a motion to approve this, if you could state with the amendment to number 7 as follows, that way we clearly have on the record, staff doesn't actually paraphrase anything. So whatever language you like to choose. Again, that tax map parcel in question is tax map 21-47D.
Mr. Chairman and Jonathan, actually, I do have a question for the applicant. Let's say everything goes well tonight. In your other permits, when are you looking in for doors open?
As soon as my permits are done,
So,
and into you guys,
2 to 3 weeks
yes,
on that end?
yes, I would really like to be open by first of October.
But I was gonna say, as someone who's opened a business in the slow season, and someone who's opened a business, right on October 1st, when we have hundreds of, if not thousands of tourists coming in,
Yes,
I want to say the planning commission is pro-business, and I think we are. So I move that we don't have any delays on our end if possible, given the information we have.
Yeah, and
Having said that, having said what you just said, and say October 1st or 2nd or 3rd, whatever, she's only got 2, 3 spaces there. And now we get an overflow of people wanting to come in and get stuff. Where's overflow parking gonna be? I mean, is that gonna be maintained out of the VDOT right away somehow, or is that, so that, I can see that possibly being
I
an
can see
issue.
cars lining up from Grace's all the way to 231, and everybody wants to go in and get a soda.
Yeah, I see that too whenever they're looking at fireworks.
I don't know how to anticipate or plan for that in this special use permit application. I would say that with any business owner, that it's their job to handle their patrons and their traffic. We do not have any plan, any overflow parking.
And I'm happy to offer overflow parking. I have 2 lots on either side of the building, so I'm happy to offer overflow parking if need be.
I would, and I appreciate that. I would just, again, these are staff comments. You all are the commission. I would strongly recommend to the amendment you've done to number 7 and maybe leave that as your modification. I don't know how we can clearly, I guess you can attempt to, but clearly try to modify parking any further in your special use permit
I don't think
application.
there's anything in the ordinances that require overflow parking, is there?
You just
We
can't, you
require
can't block the
specific-
right of way.
Right.
So was there not originally a driveway for the original house? Is there, and can that not be used instead of a new VDOT
For the brick
authorized?
building, I don't, and I haven't tracked back the deed to see if it's the current telephone building, if they use parking where that building is now. I've been told, I don't have any evidence here tonight, that at one time that was the original telephone building before they built the new. But sir, I don't have an answer of what parking was used for that. I do know by the plat and the courthouse records that the driveway for the abandoned property has exist, but I don't know how 37 Poorhouse Road, what that original driveway configuration looked like.
And so just to clarify, is this additional parking we're talking about gonna be on that gravel drive going to the Weekly property?
No, sir, it's
It-
all
so
gonna
that's-
occur on tax map 21-47D. They're gonna cut in, and Renee and Mary, if I'm overspeaking, this is your all's application. They're gonna cut in a new entrance here. Let me use my pointer. I'm dangerous with this thing. They'll cut in a new entrance here, so if you use this fence post, that fence will be removed, but I'm using it for a visual today. Come down, will be there new. If you measure from here to there, you're probably within 10, 15 feet away from that 15-foot access or that driveway for that abandoned house. So separate from that, it'll be away from that driveway, and that's where the planned entrance that we've discussed today would go in.
And Jonathan, just for point of preference, point of confusion here, the vehicle's parked perpendicular to what it will be in reality, correct? Cars will be going in
I do not know. That'd be a good question for Ms. Balfour or Ms. Woodward. I had suggested, but this isn't my application nor my engineer. As long as you can maneuver in here, there's certainly room. I don't know what you do with the dually long bed. You can't plan for everything. But it's enough room once you pull in here to maneuver in. So this bush that's right here, that's why I parked over there. I think that puts you at about 18 to 19 feet in from this fence post in. So it keeps you off of that tree. Now, certainly Ms. Balfour could cut that if she wants to. No one's asking her to. As you get away from that, you can go deeper in if you want. So, again, I just said 2, if she wanted to do 3, but 2 definitely could fit in this area. There's a little bit of a rise here, but certainly there's nothing saying that she's got to excavate that to put more parking up here, or if she wanted to level out, that's her choice. We're just saying per the ordinance, she's only required to have 2 spaces based on the square footage. But that is where the driveway would come in. They would not be maneuvering into this parking space. Now, certainly, we hope her patrons realize that. I think that's hard to control, especially FedEx people. But it's hard to control who will come in here. But as stated by public comment earlier, and what I have seen of her current facility, she does a very good job. If she can handle people not parking in the drugstore, I believe she can do a good job of monitoring the patrons that use this lot, as well as Ms. Balfour may as well. It's her property, but certainly they will not be maneuvering in here. At least that is not the applicant or the owner's intent. That's up to the chairman to recognize you.
If the whole space is being designated as parking and someone from VDOT is coming out there, I'd be happy to work with them and say, you tell me exactly what you feel is best and work within their parameters. You know, I'm not locked into the way the parking goes in either way, so I'm happy to comply with the best layout that VDOT would suggest.
So Steve, I heard Jonathan say that if we get filled up there, some overflow parking, I heard the lady say you can go to Possum Store and park there in that parking. Possum Store have a special use permit?
To my knowledge, Possum Store does not have a special use permit. I think his question's in general, not parking. He's just saying in general. But I'd have to go to the files. If that statement is inaccurate, I'd have to go back to the files. But to answer your question, I'm not aware of an SUP.
Can we go ahead and move on, any other comments on this and move forward? What do you think about, with the addition of making condition 7 read, all parking spaces shall be clearly identified on tax map 21-47D, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
With permission of the owner. Does that help with the parking? Okay. Any other comment on that idea, or any other comment on any of this? Okay, and we were also suggesting that it would be possible to recommend pending the final 2 items.
Yes, sir. VADAX and VDOT conditional on those approvals.
Any other discussion, or can we get a motion here?
I move that we send case number SUP-07-18-24 to approval to the Board of Supervisors. With the conditional approval letters of VDAC and VDOT, and on number 7 on the.
And this.
And all parking shall, okay, shall be clearly marked. You can read it.
Tax map
Tax map 47D with permission of the owner as well.
Second.
Before we vote,
Second, is any further discussion?
yes, I'd just like to say, I wish her the best. I want to see any business make it. But I can't support this because of the fact, I think we're stretching our ordinance too much.
Any other comment or discussion? All right, we've had a motion, we've had a second. Any further discussion? Okay. I guess we'll maybe vote by show of hands. All in favor of recommending to allow this special use permit with the conditions as identified? Raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? Are you just abstaining, Peter? Oh, you opposed, okay. Okay, so Pete is opposed, all others present are for. Okay, so, case number SUP-07-18-24 will be recommended for approval to the Board of Supervisors with the following changes. Condition C7, all parking spaces shall be clearly identified on tax map 21-47B with the permission of the owner and with VDOT and VDAX approval pending. Okay. All right, did I leave anything out? Okay, thank you then. The second public hearing is the proposed amendment to Appendix 1 of the zoning ordinance, Article 20-98, definition of home occupation. All right, anything to?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to overstate the origin of this, but the Board of Supervisors did request that the Planning Commission take up. They also, I believe, gave some input on some things they wish to address in a potential amendment to Article 20, Section 20-98 in the definition of home occupation. I want to point out, I know it's all in bold. This is reading off a resolution that's prepared for the board, but I want to highlight what I feel were the changes from the original, and certainly council has worked on this, so Mr. Wright may have some comments as well. But essentially, we try to do a couple of things. One, define what regularly employed on-site means. So I'm going to highlight that. So that is currently defined as regularly employed on the site means working for more than 2 hours per day on the premises. I know there was a lot of discussion about home occupations and service-based businesses, whether you're a lawn care or landscaper or arborist, or the list can go on and on. A lot of folks may come, get vehicles, leave, but they're not doing work on site, but they have employees on site. How do you define that more? So this was an attempt to kind of clarify that. So I know small businesses are being supported, but definitely so it's clear to not only a potential future applicant or how this zoning applies, as well as staff when they're trying to administer the county's zoning ordinances. And then something else that was added to clarify is the business owner must reside on the premises. I believe those were the two changes, Hannon, but I'd like to bring you in, sir.
I think it's the first phrase to add including or in the beginning of the first sentence, and that was to address what Mr. Cowan rightly pointed out as being sort of a definitional issue to begin with. So all along the same lines of trying to meet the intent of not upsetting the apple cart too much about existing businesses that we already have in the county.
And is that section I highlighted? I just want to make sure we're tracking. Okay. Thank you, sir. So staff stands ready for any questions or comments that the commission may have.
Any questions for? This is a necessary clarification would be my only comment here. Any other questions for Jonathan? Okay.
Yeah, I have kind of a thought
Here.
here. So how does this differ in what we did, what wasn't done, or, so the issue that brought all this up? How does this differ from how that was?
This is gonna be.
Can you follow what I'm trying to ask?
I think yes. And I'm gonna speak from staff. I do not
Okay.
speak for the board.
Okay.
They may want to answer that either now at their own time if they choose to. Um,
Because I feel like we're kind of making it, if I read this correctly, we've made an exception, or I'm not seeing it correctly.
So what I like to think, and I specified a lot of those occupations. Yes, we had an applicant before us, but they're not the only occupation out there that I think that would cause pause when we were reviewing that prior application. So if there is no definition of regularly employed on site, you can have some folks that may stay longer a half hour. Maybe they're doing a time card. I think some of you had asked, what about slow days to give them time? They'll wash vehicles or something like that. So I think that the difference there, Mr. Snyder, is defining that regularly employed on site. Because without it, quite frankly, me as the county administrator and even the acting zone administrator, where does that start and where does that end for some of those service and those home occupations that were specified? So personally, that's my response to that question, is trying to really do a little more defining of what regularly employed on site means, so we don't kind of get a trip hazard on businesses that have been around for 30 to 40 years.
Any other question? Any other comment? All right, we don't have an applicant for something like this, but is there any public comment? Anything online? Okay. Any further discussion from the planning commission?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that proposed amendment and appendix to the zoning ordinance article 20-98 definition and a home occupation be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, do we need a vote by hand, or let's just try to vote by voice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, no opposition. Thank you. All right, upcoming PC workshop items. Jonathan, we'll turn that over to you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like, and I won't stay on it long because it's not listed on the other items, but I do want to mention, and I want to recognize Mr. Smith, I got your comments recently on the comp plan, so thank you. If any other commissioners have comments, I know that has not made its way to you yet. I promise I'm working on it. But it is helpful to get that input because we are in the editing phase, and we will get a comp plan review committee meeting here soon to hopefully finish that body of work. So thank you for that. So that's where the comp plan currently is at. Now moving forward, what you actually called on, upcoming PC workshops, we like to kind of give you a preview or just a reminder of where we're at the next workshop. Yates Property, they applied for their site plan application. It looks like this goes back to May. As you may recall, there was some discovery by the commission which led pause in the applicant and their engineer working to correct some drain field and power line concerns. I spoke to the engineer of record. They felt pretty confident that they will have those resolved. So we will bring them to you for the September workshop, and then they will be scheduled for an October public hearing. So that was the last conversation I had there. For Madison Wood Preservers, this was introduced at your August workshop. So the Planning Commission and even the board, I think, has specified they'd like to have 2 workshops. And, so the Planning Commission feels good if they're ready for a recommendation. So this would be the second workshop in September. This is rezoning, or their application is to rezone that existing 3.71 acre parcel from R2 to M2. So again, this is the second workshop. and to give you an opportunity to ask any other further questions you may have that varied from the October workshop. So those are the two cases that you can plan to hear at your September. Oh, and there is one other, when this went to the press, we were not ready, or it was not a certain, the preliminary Development Review Committee, I think that's the name. We had actually 2 applications for that. That pre-application meeting is more of exploratory to see if that committee agrees that it at least meets the spirit of the ordinance to recommend moving to the planning commission. So there is an applicant, Mr. Seek, who represents Meander Inn and Tavern. I probably butchered the name. They're going to be applying, looks like they may want to do an event venue. They want to convert, I'm giving you a prelude, you'll hear it in September. They want to convert one of their horse barns into kind of a wedding venue type of thing. And then they have some, what I'm referring to as a modern style, like RV park style, I forget the name of the company, but I have 10 of those for lodging. They are not looking to be a campground. That's why we had initial discussions of a campground, but really landed on an event venue because that allows them to do all those things, weddings, lodging, what have you. So that will be an added item that's not on the agenda tonight because the committee just approved that to send that to you, I think, this past Tuesday. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would you make sure that these have the checklist as the top sheet on the applications that come before us?
Let me back up in this packet so we are on the same page. Is this,
I think we had a new one that was,
Janet, help me tomorrow when I'm in the office. I know Tracy worked on some streamlining, some forms. I have looked, so I do appreciate it. I have not ignored that comment, but the only forms I could find, doesn't mean they don't exist, I'll have Janet help me on that, is the permit application they fill out, which is kind of which they check through here, or any conditions we come to, we list them out. But what I'm hearing, sir, is that neither of these forms that I'm flipping through on the screen are what you're referring to. Is that correct? Okay, if you have an example, you can email me, that would be appreciated as well, and we'll go find that. But thank you for bringing that to my attention. Well, Hoover Ridge is a site plan. Yeah, the site plan has an established checklist, but an SUP, we'll look at the forms. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
And that site plan application, this is actually their second workshop, right? The one you're referring to, because we did have.
Yes, sir, this would be their second workshop. That discovery occurred in May, and they've just been working on it since then, so this will be their second workshop. Yes, sir.
And then both of these will be coming up at the October joint.
A joint public hearing, yes, sir.
Anything to add there? Any further comments? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second? Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, all yours. I remembered.
All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this evening? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion?
Mr.
Hearing-
Chairman, if I may just interject, and we did this together, so in your packet, there is the resolution, but we didn't list that as a separate item. We felt that went along with item B. So just wanted to put that as clarity.
Yes, sir. All right. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. General public comment. Is there any general public comment? Zero general public comment. All right. Case number SUP-07-18-24, Trail Bites by Cake Crumbs, SUP application. Mary Woodward is the leasee, has filed a special use permit, SUP, application to operate a general store located at 37 Poorhouse Road, Kriegersville, Virginia, and further identified by tax map number 21-47C. The property is zoned as agricultural A1 and contains .0293 acres. The property is improved with an existing 312 square foot brick building. The applicant is proposing to operate a general store in the existing building. Anything to add, Mr. Weekly?
Would you like me to
No,
talk?
we got it. Did
Okay.
everybody get the
Then
parking
I'll
thing?
rest my case.
Everybody's got it.
I
We've
saw
got
it.
it. There's 10 conditions.
My mother
The-
said
still
my
can't
mother
see
said I
out of
talked
one
a
eye.
lot.
No,
So I get
no,
it.
no.
I get it.
And the planning commission recommended it with VDOT, VDAX, and the addition to proffer number 721-47D as the identified parking. Anything from Mr. Weekly? To the applicant. Anything to add? To the public? Anything from the public? All right, back to the board. What would y'all like to do with this?
Well, let's see, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to say, you know, in our discussions on ADA compliance and whatnot, that this building or business, if, as it were, is in compliance with the county building code, okay? But as far as ADA compliance goes, that's up to the Department of Justice and the applicant. So all I am ready to certify is that it's in compliance with our building code at this point. So as far as VDOT goes, obviously the contingency on VDAX is worthy, but VDOT, as I understand it, is a recommendation always to us. And this issue of needing one parking spot and one handicap spot does not bother me. That is minutia in my opinion, so I'm not worried about VDOT at all. You have to deal with VDOT. If they come in and tell you whatever the requirements are, then that's what you have to do. I'm not gonna do that. And the bathroom issue, I think, this is sort of like a food truck issue, the way it's structured with the prepackaged food coming into the building and then going out as such. And food trucks don't need a bathroom, so that doesn't concern me, so. I guess that's it from me.
Having the available parking based on our ordinance, with the 2 spots that are required, it seems like we've covered that by adding 21-47D to number 7 as the identified site. VDOT having over 60 days to review this, that's long enough. We heard Ms. Balfour say that she's paid the application to them. They'll get back to them. I don't think it's a responsibility of the board. It is a recommendation. This is a 312 square foot business, where they're coming in, and it's a stationary food truck. I hope you block the road, and be busy as can be. I just think that if they can't make it up there, that's their problem at this point.
Yeah, I agree with Supervisor. Yeah, this is all in compliance.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you. I hope they block the road. I mean, this is the kind of business that we want. And if there's parking issues in the future, we'll just have to revisit them and come up with another solution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you like to do?
Oh, I do have one more. I've talked to a lot of people because I live up in that area. I live in Headland. And everybody that I spoke to thought this was a great idea. And I got, I think we all got one email that I know of that says, I strongly believe they're encouraging us to pass this. I strongly believe that the expansion of Mary's business would be an excellent addition to Kriegersville and blah, 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 potentially encouraging even more growth within the local business landscape. And I've been on my high horse for years, even on the planning commission, And we've incorporated into comp plan how we want to see our villages grow again. Like when I was a kid, it was great. You know, every little village you go to, there was a place to sit down and meet and visit with people while my grandfather bought me a popsicle and stuff. So I hope this works, and I hope Kirklersville continues to grow. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve SUP 07-18-24, contingent upon VDAC's approval, and the additional condition on number 7, specifying that the parking's on 21-47D by permission of the owner.
I second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion?
If I may,
Please.
members of the board, I understand, Mr. Jackson, your comment regarding blocking traffic. I know that that was probably said in jest. I just wanted to clarify that as one of the conditions for a special use permit, or one of the considerations is the safety and movement of vehicular traffic upon adjacent streets and roadways would not be adversely affected. I'm certain that the board would consider that as it votes. That was the only input I have.
Well, that was implied.
Hannon always knows how to take my comments. It's very good. Absolutely, Hannon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Good luck. Thank you. B, proposed amendment to Appendix 1 zoning ordinance, Article 20-98. It's a definition of home occupation. We do have ordinance number 2024-8, which would codify this. Mr. Weekly, anything to add on this one?
Nothing than what I stated earlier, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Mr. Weekly or Mr. Wright on this?
No, other than, so, Mr. Weekly, Mr. Wright, I think the purpose of this was we were refining the definition at this point, recognizing that down the line, we want to take a deeper dive into this home occupation, but also at the same time recognizing that small businesses, home occupations are the backbone of this whole county. So, you agree with my interpretation?
That's correct, and I think as some of the planning commission members also found when looking at this, that there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat in terms of regulating home occupancy. And this may be something that we want to totally overhaul. But I think for the moment, there were a lot of people and businesses that were sort of in limbo, particularly in A1. And this is a way for both the county and its implementation or enforcement, as well as for those business owners to know a little bit, to be less in the gray and know where they are.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any comments on this? To the public. To the public. Zero. Mr. White, you have any comments? All right. What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-8.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Any new business?
I just do want to give a plug. Only 2 of you, I don't know who all is RSVP'd for Kim. September 9th at Early Mountain, I think it's 12:30. We finally got them away from Crozet, and they're going to do their announcement here in Madison for the recent VADI Award. I think I've spoken on that prior. We're still waiting on the official maps and all that. Well, we think it was important. Madison County represented, I think, over $4 million of that $12+ million award. So we're happy to have Firefly. I think there'll be some congressional folks, Firefly folks, but I don't know how much I'll add to my speech. But we're happy to highlight that here in Madison County and get that work done for countywide coverage. So September the 9th, 12:30, Early Mountain. Only 2 of you show. We do not want to quarrel.
Kim, I RSVP'd that I couldn't make it, isn't that correct? Okay. Yeah,
Dustin, you going to this? All right, Judd's going, I'm gonna check my calendar. There you go. Is that right? There you go. All right. Information and correspondence, I don't get these very much. Mad Cats, is, writing to express their appreciation for Greg Cave and Annette Dodson, for their recent and ongoing assistance on multiple critical situations here in Madison County. I would take it as they pertain to cats, so pass along our good work to Greg and Annette. Public comment. Public comment. All right, no closed session. What would y'all like to do? Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all. Oh, gee. Yeah, no, exactly. No, I threw it in there. Bring the bags.
Oh, yeah.
This conference is no longer being recorded.